the third time over maybe the last 8 or 10 years that I've done this presentation. Has anyone seen one of my presentations on Michigan cider mills? No. Okay. Has anyone seen me do any other presentation? Okay, one hand. Well, I have a clicker here. Oh, and by the door, I'll just plug this now, is a little yellow flyer. We're doing another program in November. It's November 29th. Here in this room, it is the Rochester Author Fair and Book Sale. So we'll have 20 authors. We collaborate with the library to bring in 20 local authors. It's free to attend, but you can buy their books and get signed copies. It's another wonderful library program, as well as there's some other information about what Rochester Writers does. So this is just the description that you might have seen in the literature that brought you here. So again, thank you. Me, these are just a few of the things that I do so you know who I am. The most important one is cider mill enthusiast. But I got involved in cider mills because I used to work for one a long time ago, a couple of them. And I was a writer, am a writer and journalist, and I would write about them. And I found them so interesting that I just decided to start talking about them. So what is a cider mill? I'm guessing everyone's been to the cider mill. Right, everyone's been. Anyone not been to a cider mill? Okay. So, by definition, a cider mill is a facility where apples are crushed into juice for making cider, hard cider, applejack, apple wine, petkin, and other apple products. Its function uses specialized equipment to grind the apples to produce the juice. The location, typically near orchards for easy access to the fruit. Operations handles juicing, fermentation, storage, shipping, and shipping of the apple products. Power sources can be powered by horses, not so much anymore, water or machines, which typically electric or diesel would be what we're using now. Water, we're still using 2 in Michigan. Equipment, features fixed or portable presses. So you've probably seen those small ones that they do in some demonstrations and the large ones if you've been to the cider mill. So when you say cider mill, it could be the equipment used for pressing or the general location. Of course, we go to the cider mill for cider and donuts, but they have a lot more there. Of course, they have the fresh pressed apple cider, warm batter made donuts, other baked goods such as pies, breads, muffins, turnovers, dumplings, that sort of thing. Old-fashioned candy from when our parents and grandparents were kids. Jellies, jams, preserves, honey, maple syrup, carameled apples, fudge, ice cream, some of the sweeter things, and of course farm fresh produce. So you can get your gourds and your squash, your apples, some late tomatoes, things like that. Does anyone go to the cider mill for anything else? This is interactive. You can, yes. Hard cider. So which cider mill do you go to for hard cider? Blake's. Blake's is its own metropolis. I think they have their own zip code. They are huge and they do a wonderful job. How do you make cider? Well, it's pretty simple. The apples are picked. In Michigan, we hand pick all our apples pretty much. That used to be that we would just collect what was left on the ground. The apples that didn't look so pretty that you didn't want to sell for eating, and that was what was turned into the juice. But with Michigan laws changing a little bit, they have to be hand-picked for most of the apple production. They are stored in bins and bushels used to transport. We use an apple washer, which is water and brushes, to remove the residue. The residue could be sprays or things from animals that might find their way into the trees. To clean the apples. Grinding into pomace is what we do, and then pressing, treating, bottling, and labeling. Probably all stuff you could have figured out, but we wanted to be thorough with the list. So here's a picture of Goodison Cider Mill right up the street. This picture's a few years old. Does anybody know why I can tell it's a few years old? Because they're no longer blue. That's right. They're now happy. then they're red. So I talked to the owner for a long time saying, blue does not sound like cider mill to me. It sounds like a police station, so there is a donut connection, but it doesn't say agriculture to me. So finally he painted it red. So here you see some bins of apples that have been dropped off. These will be then transported to the back, washed, and gone through the system. This is also at Goodison. This is their washer and sorter. So the bins are used a hydraulic lift, dump in here. A person will sort them through and push them into the washer here. That's where the brushes and water will clean them. They're looking for any bad apples, and they're taking off any of the leaves. You can see some leaves floating around. We're making cider, not tea, so we don't want leaves. They will go through here and then up here, and using a little bit of gravity, will drop into the grinder, and then it's pumped through, you can't see it, a tube that will go into the press room. Every cider mill is a little different. This is over at Yates, so they are layering their apples in the press. Some cider mills will use a plastic flat table-like thing that goes in between every layer of pressing. In the old days, we used wood, so oak would have been what was used. Oak has a natural inhibitor to bacteria, so that's why a lot of oak presses were used, but we've moved over to plastic and stainless steel. There are a few that still use oak. I think Dexter still uses oak and water to power their cider mill. Then, of course, it's bottled. So this is, I think this is Highs, and this is Goodison, just showing a couple examples. The one on the left is using a machine to pump the cider into the half gallons there. So it's pre-measured, they pump it in and labeled, and the cap is put on by machinery, and this guy is monitoring that. Over at Goodison, everything is really hand done. Same with Rochester Cider Mill. They turn the tap on, they fill them up. This little stick here is used to tap the bubbles as it's filling up. And this stainless steel tray will collect the overflow. It falls into this, and then they dump it back in so they don't waste any of the cider. Any questions so far? I feel like I'm moving along a little quickly. Here's some Michigan apples. What's some of your favorite Michigan apples and why? Anyone have a favorite Michigan apple? And why do you like Honeycrisp? Yeah, is it because it's the most expensive apple out there? Maybe. Yeah, okay. What do you got for us? I like it because it's not mushy. Not mushy. Yeah, Pink Lady, a very good one. Honeycrisp. Any others that are your go-to? Jonah Gold? And Mary? Paula Reds? A little more on the tart side. Yep. Anybody else with a favorite apple? So these are just some of the Michigan ones. Tells you their taste and texture and their uses. So basically, every apple out there is good for fresh eating. Some are better than others for baking. They all have a little different taste and texture, as you can see. Some have a nice crunch. I find I like that crunch. You want to hear that as you bite into it, right? It just seems like it's fresh. Some apples are soft. I had one earlier just before I came. I point to Sonia here. She's my partner that's going to help us pour cider later. It was soft, and I wasn't sure if it had been sitting around or if it was a soft apple because I wasn't sure which one was. I just got a whole variety at a farmer's market. So Yeah, most people don't like soft, but soft apples are really good for baking. They're good for juicing. They're good for applesauce. So there's a lot of good uses for them. Here's the Michigan Apple Committee puts this out. This is the harvest schedule. So everything was a little early this year, which is good because we had less rain in the fall. So we would have been kind of sitting around. So we've still got the Evercrisp, Ida Reds, Crisp Pink, Crisps. I'm not sure I'm saying that one right. That must be a newer one. So Hillary, we're pretty close. I like Gala and Fuji. Honeycrisp are good, yes, absolutely. Evercrisp are, I think, just as good as the Honeycrisp. So plan your trip to the cider mill or the farmer's market. So it's always time for a joke. Someone asked me this question. Nope, it's just up to here. I didn't say it was a good joke. It was a dad joke, absolutely. So, do you prefer your cider pasteurized, UV light treated, or natural and untreated? Anybody? You like it pasteurized? Anybody else with a different choice? So did you know there was 3 types of ciders you could get? Some people did. Is anyone in the apple industry? Is anyone from a cider mill? It's not like law enforcement where you have to answer. I'm just asking you to be on the honor system. So treating cider. These are the 3 methods for treating cider. Untreated, it may or may not be filtered. Filtering varies from cider mill to cider mill. If you like it really without anything, any grit in it whatsoever, they will heavily filter it. I don't think filtering is that necessary, but it's up to the cider mills. Pasteurization is just like milk pasteurization. It's heated to 160 degrees for a few seconds, then cooled. That's called flash or quick pasteurization. And then UV light treated, which is an ultraviolet light treat. It's not heated. It uses light to kill bacteria. It's FDA approved. It does not change the color or the flavor, which is what pasteurization does. It breaks down the pectins in the cider, and the flavor and the color just isn't quite the same as what it was originally. So, it's recommended by the FDA that if you're pregnant or nursing, you should only get UV light treated or pasteurized cider to stay away from the raw cider. But I'm going to ask the question, when you eat an apple, do you pasteurize it first? Okay. So here's some apple facts. There's 2,500 varieties in the U.S. I think about 450 in Michigan. Only the crab apple is native to North America. Colonists brought the apples over in the 17th century. Apples are fat-free, sodium-free, gluten-free, and cholesterol-free. If it wasn't for the sugar, they'd be really, really good for you. But if you limit your sugar intake, apples are still a great, great food. A bushel weighs about 42 pounds, and to make 1 gallon of cider, you need about 36 apples. Another slide that was put out by the Michigan Apple Committee. This is just kind of taking a look at it. Here in Michigan, we are the 2nd largest producer of apples in the U.S. Second to Washington, I believe, and sometimes tied with New York. 17.5 million apple trees. 50% are just eaten raw. So people that buy apples, half of them are just eaten as an apple, and they're unpasteurized. 30 million bushels of apples. We've kind of gone up. I'll come to a stat here in a minute, and just giving you a little bit of their economic impact. Michigans are sold in 32 states, 18 counties. Countries, thank you. So quite a bit. Apples are a big deal in Michigan. Agriculture is a big deal in Michigan. Certainly apples are. So Johnny Appleseed, you know he was real. Does everyone know that? So here's just kind of a quick breakdown of Johnny Appleseed. I don't know if I'm going to read it all, but he established nurseries as he traveled across the Midwest. He promoted apple cultivation by taking seeds and saplings. Now, if you know anything about apple trees, the best way to get a good apple is to graft from a good tree onto a regular apple tree, and then that will produce the good apples from that branch. So they're usually done at a very young age, these trees, and that's where we get all of our good apples are from grafting, not from seeds. So if you eat a really good apple and you decide, I'm going to take a seed from that really good apple and plant it in my backyard, you're probably going to have a tart, small apple. It's not going to produce that apple that you just ate. But what happens, and so he did the seeds and the saplings to settlers as they moved across the country. The seeds were to plant all of those trees that would later be used to graft onto and to start the agriculture. The grafting is what produces the better apples. This also introduced the diverse varieties. So he's planting the seeds rather than grafting, which fostered diverse apples. The tart apples, way back when, were used to make apple cider, apple jack, hard cider, that type of thing, because it didn't matter if it was a sweet apple. So he did quite a bit. He was very innovative, very important to the Midwest economy for the apple industry. So he was real. He's not just a book. Yes. Applejack is like a hard cider. It's just another name for it. The process is slightly different, but it's the same idea. So in America, when we say cider, you think of sweet apple cider from the cider mill. Is anyone not from the U.S.? Really? Usually we have a diverse crowd. So those folks would tell you that, especially Europe, would say that cider means hard cider. But in the U.S., cider, just as that one word, is sweet cider. We add the hard cider to distinguish the two. So there's over 50 cider mills in Michigan. It's really sad. When I started doing this presentation maybe 10 years ago, there was 100. So we're losing them. But fortunately, we still have 3 really good ones in the Rochester area. We had 5, but we're down to 3. So Yates Cider Mill, Goodison Cider Mill, and Rochester Cider Mill. Does everyone go to those 3 in the area? Do you have a favorite? Okay, everyone for Yates. Everyone for Rochester. Everyone for Goodison. Everyone who didn't raise their hand. Yeah, there's a few of us. Is it because you haven't tried them or you love them all? Okay. Here's some other notable ones in the area that you may have been to. Franklin Cider Mill, Blake Cider Mill, Stony Creek Orchard, Spicer's, Uncle John's, Past Tense. Yes, it's a wonderful, they have a great restaurant and a gift shop up there in Lapeer. Uncle John's is huge. It's another one of those Yates experiences. Spicer's is a little smaller. They're really nice. Stony Creek is just up in Romeo. It's small, much like Goodison and Rochester. Mom and pop. They got a little donut shop, so you got to wait in line for your donuts, then you got to go and wait in line for your cider, which I never really liked, but that's how they do it there. Blake's, of course, does a fantastic job. They are some of the best people to work with. They really do a wonderful job. Their cider is good. It's pasteurized. I'm not a big fan of pasteurization, but out of all the pasteurized cider, theirs is hands down the best that I've tasted. Franklin Cider Mill, they also do a really good job. I think they are UV light treated. Any cider mills that you've been to around the state that's not on this list? Hillary? Parsheville? Yes, very good cider mill. Anybody else? There's 50 of them. Can't list them all, but here's some of the favorites. This map was done when Paint Creek Cider Mill was still a cider mill, so I apologize I didn't update this map, but this one used to have 5 on it. Remember Middleton over on DeQuinder? They did a wonderful job. It was sad to see them go. They were the only place in the area that did candied apples. So the red and the blue, they had a candy coating on them. Not my thing, but boy, they were known for it. They did a great job with those. Carameled apples, every cider mill does that. So there's 3 in Rochester, and you should get to all 3 this season at least once. Yates. This tells you where they are. They do UV light treated cider. They are busy all the time. All the time. If you went there at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, that's kind of the line you'd see. Maybe not quite that bad, but there's always a few. Sonia, you ran over there earlier. What was the line like? You walked right in. Okay, it was a good time. Usually there's a line at Yates. They know what they're doing. They are water powered. So this wheel that you see spinning is just for decoration. There's water running through it, but it's not doing anything other than spinning. The water comes in from the Paint Creek or Clinton River there? Clinton River, thank you. And they're dropped in the turbines right out here by the road and this little sidewalk there. They're nothing to look at. You look down and it just looks like a giant drain. But those are the turbines that then power the mill. So them and Dexter are the 2 that are still powered by water in Michigan. Super clean, super efficient. They get people in and out. They do a really nice job at Yates. Lots of parking, lots of traffic, great trails, Clinton River, lots to do out there, petting farm. I haven't been out there yet this season, but they usually have some animals out there. They have a fudge shop, an apple shop. They do Fritter Fridays. Lots of fun things at Yates. Very busy. So, if you want something there, it's not quite as busy. Right up the street is Goodison Cider Mill. See, they're red now. Doesn't that look better than the blue one? Doesn't that say, I'm a cider mill? You're welcome. So this picture was taken a couple years ago, but it looks pretty much the same way early, about this time of year, because those mums haven't started blooming yet. They are really well known for their cider and donuts, but most importantly, their donuts and something called pistachio nut bread. Has anyone had pistachio nut bread from Goodison? Yeah, pretty good. They're also doing a pumpkin nut bread, and they're doing smaller loaves of those, so little muffins and little small loaves. People aren't sure pistachio nut bread. Yeah, it's more of a cake consistency, like a dessert bread, not a regular bread, but super yummy. I like to cut thick slices and toast them, and then you're warming them up and just adding a little stability to that cake-like bread. Really, really nice. What else do they have? Their donuts seem to be the best around. I try donuts everywhere I go. Most of the time, why are you snickering? Yes, I eat donuts. It's part of being a cider mill enthusiast and a man. I have to eat donuts. they're kind of the same. The cider mill has fresh, made that day donuts, so they're super yummy, but they're kind of the same from place to place. Goodison is a step above. I don't know why. I can't explain it. The batter that they use is identical to what Rochester has. And I love Rochester Cider Mill, and their cider is better than Goodison's, but their donuts just don't quite get there. They're good. So where I'm going with this is that you have to go to all the cider mills. So, Rochester Cider Mill, they do a little better job in presentation. It's really a photo op opportunity at Rochester Cider Mill. Just north of town, yes, cash only, cash or check only. Goodison does take cash, check, and charge, Apple Pay, Google Pay, they do it all. Rochester's a little more old school, cash or check only, like a lot of mom and pop places, you know, these ice cream places that are only open for 3 or 4 months. Same idea. It's a lot for them to take on a big system where they're only using it a few months out of the year. Gorgeous location. They have a petting farm in the back. Right now they have 3 sheep. They started as lambs and now they're sheep. I don't know how that works. They're really cute. They're super friendly. They'll come up to you, and then as soon as they realize you don't have any food for them, they're gone. They have a bunch of chickens and 1 lonely turkey. I know. His siblings all died. He's the last survivor. They don't know if it's a he or she yet because he's not quite there. So he looks like this skinny-necked chicken running around. He probably thinks he's a chicken. So when you go out there, give him a little extra love because he needs it. Lots and lots of pumpkins and gourds. If you need to decorate for the holidays, definitely Rochester Cider Mill will have what you need. They've got a farm tool display there. So all these old-fashioned, it's like a museum of all these old-fashioned hand tools in there. So it's a little something for the kids to look at. Not terribly exciting because it's up on the wall. But what is more exciting is their straw pyramid. I'm always getting corrected by someone who's a farmer. Straw is what they bed in. Hay is what they eat. So it's a straw pyramid, about 9 feet tall. Good for all ages to play on. Picnic tables. So a little more to do at Rochester. Goodison only does things on Sunday. They do their pressing that you can watch. Watching a cider mill's full operation of pressing apples is really, really exciting once. They're all a little different, so check them out when you go from place to place. They all have different equipment and do it different ways. It's loud, it attracts bees, but it is amazing watching them press all of this. So back to Goodison. They do music, and they have a guy that does balloon creations on Sunday. Yes?
How are the cider blends, how do those taste?
So, good question. All cider is a blend of apples. The better ciders are blends of apples. They want to balance the pH, so they will use sweet and tart and different ones to have a full-bodied cider. There's some cider mills, Franklin, that has a Honeycrisp only. And then they also have a crafted blend, much like all the other cider mills. Just like the Honeycrisp apples are more expensive, so is the Honeycrisp cider. It's good, but the blend is better. The blend balances the palate when you drink it. There's nothing wrong with Honeycrisp cider. It's just the blends are better, in my opinion. Yes, so the fruit blends. So this is just a few that they have. Pear, cranberry, grape, blueberry, peach, holiday. Holiday is a blend of just apples, but they have the sweeter apples. They put out a batch just before Thanksgiving and just before Christmas. Really good for baking with. Great for adding adult beverages to. heating up and spicing with tea and other spices. But yes, so they put in, and it's mostly apples, which I didn't really realize until I went to the grocery store and I started reading the labels on all the different juices that are out there. Do you know what the first ingredient is in all juices? Apples. Almost all of them, apples is first. And then the other fruit is secondary. And it's really mostly apples. So apples and pear, apples and cranberry, apples and grape, apples and blueberry, apples and peach. Right now they have pear cider available. Green Cap at Rochester, really yummy. Any questions about Goodison or Rochester? Yes. Yes. They bake pies at both, well, all cider mills bake them, and they have quite a variety of them. Yes, the pies are good at both places. So here is some resources. If you want to take a picture or just memorize it. That picture was stolen from Pure, Michigan, but I think they'll forgive me. MichiganCiderMills.com just points to our Facebook page, but it is something that I'm running. Eventually, it's going to be a directory of all the cider mills in Michigan with some tips and tricks and driving locations, things like that. So bouncing back to what we do, the official crop estimate for this year is 30 million bushels. And you can see the last 4 years we've been kind of right around that here in Michigan. We're doing a great job. It was a little different through the late teens and the early 2020s. 2012 was the worst year in a long, long time. You can see how much different it was. That's the year that we had a drought. We also had early frosts, and it was just sad. Now, places like Rochester and Goodison still used Michigan apples, primarily because they're not big enough to order from out of state. So they still went and got their apples, and you were getting Michigan apples and Michigan cider that year. The bigger cider mills, we're not doing that. I won't mention them, but it was all the other ones. Did you know we had a Michigan apple queen? This is her here. Kelly, and this tells you a little bit about Kelly. She's from Conklin, Michigan. She is the daughter of David and Janine Chase, student at Michigan State, and these are growers. So to be crowned queen, or even to run for this position, your family has to be in the industry. So, and this is, I think, part of her court, Lauren Bould there. Now, sadly or progressively, I don't know what the right way to do this is, she's the last queen we will see in Michigan, because they have moved away from that, and they are now awarding scholarships to 3 individuals, male or female. So again, they still have to be related to the apple industry, but I think they're just kind of making it a little more modern and not so pageantry-like. I'm not sure. Yes?
And is that for, new basis people under those boards, agricultural, or whatever we want to say, like, if they want to get back to
It's probably a little loose, but I think the family has to be invested into the industry. Most of these folks are from larger or family orchards, and I would imagine that apples have to be part of what they're doing to be apple queen, but they're from the agriculture. Yes. Now I don't know what she was going to Michigan State for, but yeah, the scholarships. I would imagine so, because it's towards schooling. So, And it all kind of makes sense. I like the idea of having a Michigan apple queen, but I know things change. So cider mills are fun for all ages. Walking trails, U-pick farms, hay rides, haunted attractions, some of them. Hard cider for that gentleman in the back. Corn mazes, which should be followed after the hard cider because it's more fun. Bounce houses, petting farm, and pony rides. These are just some of the things that you can find at the cider mill. Some are for kids, some are for all ages. The hay rides are a lot of fun. Some of them are a U-pick hay ride, so they'll throw you onto the trailer, haul you out, and then you can pick from whatever it is during the season. So Blake's does a nice job with that. Stony Creek does a nice job with that. It's just a fun way to pick do your U-pick and get the hay ride too. Miller's Big Red, which is now just Big Red, they have a similar one. At least they did. I haven't been out there since they changed the name. So Miller's Big Red out in Romeo, just down the street from Stony Creek Orchards, sold and was maybe not going to be a cider mill and maybe was going to be a subdivision, but then somebody came in and it's still a cider mill, so yay. Some tips for visiting the cider mill. These are mostly small family-run businesses, so keep that in mind when you call them to ask when they press cider. It's probably not going to be on their website, probably not going to be in their social media. You're going to have to call and ask. And if you call on Tuesday and they say we're doing it on Thursday, you might want to call Thursday morning to make sure they're still doing that, because it's dependent on the weather, the apples, and how much cider is still in their cooler on whether they can press and have space for it. So it is exciting to watch, like I said. Call ahead if that's what you want to see. Also, ask them what activities they have and what days and times. All of these are probably weather dependent because it's all outside. So plan accordingly. What form of payment do they accept? As I mentioned before, a lot of them are cash only. So like Rochester has an ATM on site, but there's a few bucks for the fee, so take cash before you go if that's the case. Find out about inside or outside eating areas. Goodison has a screened-in tent. It keeps the bees out. They do a great job with that. Cider mills make cider. Cider attracts bees. They love it. They don't drink much, so don't worry if they land in yours. Just don't swallow it. Goodison has a screened-in tent. Yeah, great idea that the owner had. They do a great job with that. The other ones locally here don't have something similar. It's all outdoors. But some of the larger ones will have an inside area. Blake's has an inside area that you can go into. So get your cider donuts, go into their inside area if bees bug you. And usually they're bugging the kids, and kids are a little scared of them. But like I said, they don't drink much. Allergies. So they make carameled apples and breads and pies, and some of those things will have nut. If you have a nut allergy or any other allergies, just find out. Again, they're small family businesses. They can't, unfortunately, accommodate everything. So just find out if that's a concern of yours. Parking, they have usually grass parking or just outdoor parking. They don't have paved parking lots, a lot of them. So there may be trip hazards. So their agricultural and their insurance and their liabilities are all different because you're going onto a farm. But for you going out there, be safe, find out what the situation is, especially if you have any mobility issues. You can try to find the answers on their websites before calling because they are busy and they might not have time to answer all your questions. Family businesses are quirky. Have you ever known a family business? So they are a lot of fun, but they haven't gone to school for business. They have been forced by their parents and grandparents to run a cider mill. So just keep that in mind. It's still a wonderful experience, but it's not their everyday job.